Oh. Great. Was it in the Appalachian Mountains? And now went. Oh, really? Yesterday's nemesis here. There. Epic Bagel. What's up? How you doing? So far we have that one, and then we have this too. Nemi and me. So I'll probably, I think, do a compilation of all the looks on a shirt. You're getting distracted? Let's go.
It wasn't always like this. We had families and friends.
Nice. The 9th entry in the mainline Resident Evil series is fast approaching. But if you're looking to jump in for the first time,
which one's that, Robbie?
What the
or
hell
who's that?
is going on?
Where's everyone going?
Oh, you need to pay bills?
Here is a very condensed synopsis of the main Resident Evil story and everything you need to know leading into Resident Evil Requiem. Warning, the following contains spoilers.
I'm trying to think of her name or her face.
July 23rd, 1998. Raccoon City Police STARS Bravo team is dispatched to investigate murders in the Arclave Mountains, but crashes before they can reach.
The Arclave Mountains, y'all.
Survivor Rebecca Chambers makes her way towards a spooky-looking mansion nearby to find the rest of Bravo team. Before she can arrive, Rebecca, along with her newly acquired convict companion Billy Cohen, arrive at an abandoned training facility, discovering that its former director, Dr. James Marcus, along with former partner Oswald E. Spencer, was responsible for a new biological weapon dubbed the T-Virus, a deadly infection that turns humans into zombies and other monstrosities.
Resident Evil.
Resident Evil.
STARS Alpha Team is dispatched to find out what happened to Bravo Team. The search leads STARS members Jill Valentine, Chris Redfield, Barry Burton, and team leader Albert Wesker to the Spencer Mansion. The gang splits up and discovers the horrible fates of fallen STARS members due to the T-Virus outbreak. And Chris finds Bravo team member Rebecca Chambers still alive.
You. Chris Redfield, Alpha Team. We're here to rescue you.
Jill and Chris eventually discover that the Umbrella Corporation, a pharmaceutical company with shady business practices, was behind illegal experiments that resulted in the horrors roaming the mansion's halls.
What?
Eventually, once they reach the sinister laboratory, our survivors discover that Wesker, their team leader, is actually a traitor and works for Umbrella in some capacity. Wesker infects himself with the strain of the T-Virus for some elaborate plan that involves releasing a new superweapon, the Tyrant, that swiftly kills him. After managing to defeat the monster, the remaining STARS team escaped the facility.
Shad, what's up?
Our survivors return to Raccoon City and begin to learn that the corruption runs deep. They decide to go rogue and investigate.
Does anyone remember
a
Deep Fear?
Conspiracy. Chris heads off to Europe solo, and Jill stays in the city to learn more about Umbrella.
Resident Evil 3.
Thank you for liking the live, y'all.
In September 1998, Raccoon City became overrun with zombies. Umbrella sees this outbreak as an opportunity to test its latest bioweapon, sending down the experimental nemesis, a hulking beast with a rocket launcher that's tasked only with the death of all STARS members.
So probably have my mouth be like
While Jill desperately tries to escape the outbreak,
and going
with Nemesis
down,
hot on
and then
her
the
heels,
tongue
rookie
out.
RPD officer Leon S. Kennedy and Chris Redfield's younger sister Claire Redfield both arrive in Raccoon City at the worst possible time.
Nobody was answering me, so I put it into my own decision.
After being separated following a car accident, Leon and Claire agree to meet up at the nearby police department. Unfortunately, the building is also infested with zombies.
You think everything's so stupid, Base?
On her quest to find her brother Chris,
you.
Claire runs into Sherry Birkin, a young girl being pursued by a
Queen,
monstrous
thank you so much for the
widow who
follow.
turns out
Welcome
to
on
not
in.
only be her dad, but also Umbrella's leading scientist, William Birkin.
You gotta be kidding me.
Turns out Billy B had planned to betray Umbrella and sell his newly developed G-Virus, but before he had the chance, he was gunned down by Umbrella.
It was really good, and that's not.
Before dying, William managed to infect himself with the G-virus, allowing it to spread into Raccoon City through the water system, creating the enormous mess all our characters are now dealing with.
Especially
nice one, Willie. Meanwhile, Leon runs into Ada Wong,
and then
an
you
FBI
just said
agent
goodbye.
who's seeking the G-virus for herself to prove Umbrella's corruption. They decide to form an alliance, for now.
Thank you.
Leon and Ada run into Birkin's wife Annette, who is not a big fan of the pair.
Ada!
You'll never get the G-virus!
Leon and Ada follow her to a secret Umbrella underground facility called Nest in pursuit of the G-virus sample.
I wonder where the G-virus is.
Claire also arrives at Nest in search of a vaccine for a now infected Sherry. Leon manages to obtain the G-virus sample, but runs into William, who, in his freakish form, mortally wounds his wife. Annette reveals to Leon that Ada is not what she seems, and is actually a mercenary.
Give me a name
who's
of a
looking to sell
Marvel
the G-virus
character.
to the highest bidder.
She's gonna sell it.
Ada demands the G-virus, but before Leon can hand it over, Annette manages to shoot Ada, who then falls to her death, dropping the G-virus sample in the process. Claire finds the vaccine and gives it to Annette to cure her daughter, while she tangles with an out-of-control William. Sherry is cured, but Annette eventually dies of her injuries. The facility is set to self-destruct.
Yeah, I'll probably have the tongue like going out and about, like, yeah. So I'll probably make, yeah.
Gotta get out of here.
You're officially leaving? Where are you going now?
With Nest destroyed, the crew finally manages to escape the nightmare, and on the outskirts of Raccoon City,
oh, like House of the
continue
Dead?
their fight against Umbrella.
House of the Dead was like really good.
Is it over?
I don't know. But if it's not, we'll stop it. Whatever it takes.
Yeah, you damn right. we will.
Whatever it takes.
Disney Plus, Hulu, and HBO Max. It's the best of everything.
Guys,
together.
we're doing it.
I hope you can walk because I'm not carrying you.
Where are you going for a walk?
Predators.
I miss all the gross stuff.
It's the
Around your
ultimate
workshop?
For an unbelievable price.
You know what you should
It
do?
wasn't always like this. We had lives. And dreams. Now the only thing
This
left
like live action trailer that they did was so good. So good, guys. So good.
While Jill, Leon, and Claire are dealing with their own issues amidst a zombie outbreak, 8 other Raccoon City residents
Are you guys
also in a
hanging out this
desperate
weekend,
fight for
Base?
survival. Most notably, local
You know, it'd
journalist
be a
Alyssa
great,
Ashcroft, an
great
investigative reporter trying to
date for
spotlight
you guys.
Umbrella's evil ways. Alyssa manages to escape Raccoon
You
City
should be like,
before
okay,
its government-issued annihilation, carrying information
You
that
get
could
to come
expose
over
Umbrella
and
once
we're gonna
for all.
watch one of my favorite streamers.
3.
Elsewhere in Raccoon City, Jill Valentine is infected with the T-virus. Fortunately,
And then you
Carlos,
bring her
Oliveira,
into
and Merc, who,
the stream.
despite being hired by Umbrella, is on the scene to not only cure Jill, but also help her find an important vaccine.
Base, we have to. We have
At
to
this point, our
prove
heroes
her.
discover the unfortunate news that the US government plans to wipe
You get
out
just
Raccoon
rid of
City
her,
with a missile
rid
strike,
of him,
hoping to
Robbie.
eradicate the infection. Carlos and Jill head to another underground lab, this time creatively called Nest 2. Unfortunately, Nemesis
people
is still
try to
alive and very much in
warn
pursuit.
others about it,
Jill
no
and
one
Carlos
believed them
manage to
because it
take
was
out the
April Fool's
abomination
Day.
once and for all, and with the vaccine sample in hand, escape the city before the missile
Lit
strike.
liquor!
Unfortunately, Nikolai,
I was almost excited to hear your idea till you said some of the dumbest shit I've
and manages to destroy the vaccine vial. Jill and Carlos
That's
take down Nikolai,
mean.
leaving him for dead, and escape just before the missile
Why
arrives
wouldn't you
to
want her to
completely
meet us?
floor Raccoon City for good.
Are you embarrassed of us?
Resident Evil.
3 months after escaping from Raccoon City, Claire Redfield, in search of her brother Chris, attempts to raid a European Umbrella facility before being
I think he is
captured.
too.
Claire is taken to an island prison commanded by Alfred Ashford, the governor of Rockfort Island. An outbreak occurs, of course, and after being freed, Claire gets to work looking for
No,
Chris
you guys will
and
start
escaping
doing
the island.
base shit and
There's no
expose
sign of
me.
Chris, so after much
It's
trouble,
the-
Claire
look,
escapes
I'm
on
turning
plane.
into Pepto-Bismol.
Ashford, who it turns out has a split personality disorder and often believes himself to be his twin sister Alexia, takes control of the plane remotely and crashes it into another Umbrella facility, this time in Antarctica. It's also worth noting that during the crash, Claire spends a period unconscious here, during which she has a dream that turns out to be the plot of Resident Evil Survivor 2. quid.
I just
Alfred,
want
believing
her
Claire
to
be a
come
spy,
into the
also
stream
escapes
so I could say
Rockfort in a quest for
congratulations on
revenge.
getting
And after
married.
he's fatally wounded, frees his actual sister Alexia, the person he previously believed or
Yes,
wished
I'm doing the
himself
pastel
to be,
goth
who
right
was
now.
cryogenically frozen and riddled with a new virus called T. Veronica. Meanwhile, back on Rockfort Island, wouldn't you know it, Chris has shown up looking for Claire. Instead, he runs into his old pal slash mortal enemy, Albert Wesker.
Long time no see.
Yes, oh my gosh, calamine lotion is the best.
Who's still alive, super strong.
I remember
and
I
on
had a
mission to
really
find
bad
the T.
allergic
Veronica
reaction
sample.
to
Turns out his plan was to be killed
laundry
by the tyrant, so
detergent,
he could
and
reach
I
his full
literally had to
potential of some
lather my
experimental virus
side
he
of my
had or
face
something
with
like that.
it.
They both make their way to Antarctica, and Chris finally reunites with Claire, who then defeats a now
But
very
let her
powerful Alexia
know
before
you said
escaping
that.
as the facility,
What about her
you
coming
guessed
in
it,
here?
self-destructs.
Chris!
Hey, you know I always keep my
that's messed up to
promises.
say.
Oh, and Chris and Claire
Turning
vow to
into
take
a
down
chihuahua.
Umbrella. You seeing a pattern here?
There's still something we've got to do.
You mean...
Anybody here like really big fans of chihuahuas?
We've got to destroy Umbrella.
Oh, just the
Now,
congratulations?
let's
Are you gonna
finish
tell her
this
she doesn't
once
need to
and
know
for
for
all.
what?
Resident Evil 4.
6 years have now passed, and Umbrella is now long gone due to a government suspension and a stock value crash. Basically, the lamest way possible for a big bad to go out. Leon Kennedy, the once rookie RPD officer,
Yeah,
is now
face,
a
yep.
government agent who's sent on a mission to rescue the president's daughter Ashley from
I've
her
heard that
kidnappers
one
in rural
before.
Spain. Leon discovers that
They're
not only
turning
are
the
her
lights
kidnappers a cult
off.
called Los Illuminados, but they're also infected by a brand new mind-controlling parasite called Las Plagas.
Las Plagas.
During the rescue, Leon coincidentally bumps into an old flame, Ada Wong.
You can stop right there, Leon.
You could stop right there, Leon.
Wouldn't make me use this.
Stop right
Who turns out to not be dead and is once
there.
again on the hunt for a virus. After rescuing
What's
Ashley,
up, John?
Leon
How you
confronts the
doing?
cult's leader, Sadler, and with the help of Ada, they defeat him.
Why are you rage quitting?
Bringing down the parasite and all the hordes he
I
infected.
feel like we need a command that like counts how many times Space says he's leaving.
Ada, once again showing her true colors, takes the Las Plagas sample and escapes by helicopter. But not before, setting the base to self-destruct.
I don't understand. Why would she just...
We're gonna move. Island's gonna blow.
It's gonna what?
Yeah.
Leon and Ashley manage to escape very dramatically on a jet ski and appear to ride it all the way back from Spain to the US. I mean, they probably just went back to the mainland and took a more traditional route, but imagining they jet skied across the Atlantic is funnier. So let's say they did that.
Disney Plus, Hulu, and HBO Max.
Goodbye.
It's the best of everything together.
Goodbye, cruel world. Goodbye.
Definitive predator.
I miss all the gross
Dino,
stuff.
thank you for liking the live.
Unbelievable price.
Okay, now that I'm like getting in the zone with this,
The world wasn't always like this.
Yep.
We had families and friends. Lives. With homes and places we love.
Thanks for not letting me quit yesterday,
Listen
you guys.
closely,
Or
and you might hear
today.
what remains before it becomes
thanks for being like,
your
stop being
never-ending
a
nightmare.
bitch and just get on with it. Sometimes I need that.
Revelations.
Shortly after the events
Someone
of
help,
Resident
she's
Evil
turning
4,
into
we're
Kirby.
finally
Okay, well,
reunited
goodbye.
with our original protagonists, Chris Redfield and Jill Valentine, who are now involved in a new investigation into bioorganic weapons, which results in
Neither
them
are
discovering
you
a new
based,
strain
okay?
of the T-virus called T-Abyss, a weapon that the latest new evil organization Veltro plans to use, infecting 1/5 of the world's oceans.
1/5.
Ultimately, there's a lot of betrayal and evil plots here, with names and organizations that mostly don't feature in the wider series, except for one, the BSAA, short for the Bioterrorism Security Assessment Alliance.
I can't.
Chris and
I
Jill
can't
are founding
watch.
members, and this new
I
organization's
can't.
motives become the driving force for these characters going forward. Naturally, Chris and Jill survive the events of Revelations, taking us directly into the next chapter of Resident Evil.
Resident Evil.
What did
2 years after Resident Evil 4, our original bad Wesker is still on the loose. Chris and Jill, now under the banner of the BSAA, follow a lead towards Umbrella's founder Oswald E. Spencer, but instead run into Albert Wesker, who has killed Spencer. Wesker, seemingly even more powerful than before and now dodging bullets for fun, is more than a match for Chris and Jill. To save Chris's life, Jill sacrifices herself, sending both her and Wesker to their deaths. Chris, understandably, is a bit sad.
Is a bit sad. That's putting it very, very mildly.
Almost 3 years after Jill's death, Chris is tasked with apprehending terrorist Ricardo Irving, who is selling bioorganic weapons in Africa.
Wow, perceptive, aren't you?
Along with his new partner Sheva, Chris discovers that the locals are infected by a modified Las Plagas parasite. Chris is also informed by the BSAA that Jill could still be alive. After defeating a mutated Irving, Chris and Sheva learn that Tricell, the company that funds the BSAA, had taken over Umbrella's seedy work in conjunction with a, would you believe it, still alive Wesker, who's been conducting human experiments.
Wesker.
Unfortunately, one of his victims is Jill, who is also still alive and now under
you guys know that?
Control. Chris and Sheva manage to subdue Jill and remove the mind control device before it's too late. Wesker tries to flee on a bomber, which crash lands into, of all places, a volcano. After some brief boulder punching, Chris and Sheva finally kill Wesker once and for all. And all is well in the world, for now.
Locked and loaded.
The wrinkles in my forehead are gonna help this look like a brain even more. Y'all want to hear a cheap way to get Botox?
Disney Plus,
get bangs.
And HBO Max. It's the best of everything together.
I hope you can walk because I'm not carrying you.
The definitive predator.
I miss all the gross stuff.
It's the ultimate bundle for an unbelievable price.
Just a little disheartened? How come? What's going on?
Evil Revelations 2.
Claire Redfield, younger sister of Chris and now a member of TerraSafe,
be filtering me. I wasn't thinking Kirby with your makeup. You look like you smothered yourself in strawberry. Can it at least be
of Barry Burton? Remember him? He's the Jill sandwich guy.
Cream cheese.
Nicely into a sandwich.
This island, an abandoned prison, isn't a nice place to be. While being stalked by mysterious monsters are directed around this labyrinth by someone known as the Overseer.
Who the f is quoting poetry?
Are you afraid?
After all the typical Resident Evil hijinks involving other survivors, shady corporations and betrayal, it's revealed that the Overseer is called Alex Wesker. Although she does share a surname though, she's not actually a relative of the infamous villain. Stay tuned for that
with the
later.
brilliant
But
money-making
rather,
idea and they still haven't responded.
And inducted into the Wesker Project, a sinister plot developed by Oswald E. Spencer to try and develop a race of superior beings
do we all need to get together
virus.
and
Another virus, blimey.
Get them to answer? So I just spent like an hour and a half handwriting a review damn near an essay.
Island, injecting a virus into
Hopefully it was a good one, or was it the one that you had sent me?
Eventually, Claire and Moira corner
about
Alex,
Travis.
And now, with nowhere left to run, Alex commits suicide.
Oh!
But not before, say it with me, setting the base to stealth.
That was the one?
Self-destruct sequence of the facility's upper spire will begin immediately.
Claire manages to escape, but unfortunately, Moira is trapped under rubble. Enter Big Daddy Barry.
Moira.
6 months pass before Barry reaches the island, desperately chasing Moira's SOS signal. But before finding his daughter, he runs into a still alive but mutated Alex Wesker.
It's not enough to live. I want to transcend.
After more survival horror hijinks, Barry eventually comes face to face with Alex, who's now heavily mutated into a final glowing orange target-covered form. Fortunately, both are still alive Moira and a returning Claire
are taking
Redfield
6 whole
with a
days to get
rocket
back to me
launcher
about an
arrive to
appointment
swing
with
the
a
odds
hand
in Barry's
specialist,
favor.
but it's pissing me off. Like, is it one where you have to go to...
In the epilogue, Claire receives a message
like
about
they
her
have to
brother, Chris
recommend
Redfield,
you to somewhere?
and his jaunt to China to handle another bioterror threat.
Yeah. Well, tell Piers to look at
I'm fighting for it. Fair.
Right, next up is Resident Evil 6, which features not one, but
I told them they need to
interwoven
make Cooper
campaigns, and it all
Howard's
gets very messy.
jerky IRL. Everyone would buy it.
Resident Evil 6.
In 2012, a new virus surfaced from a company dubbed Neo Umbrella, led by someone who appears to be Ada Wong. Series newcomer Jake Muller is believed to be the key to the vaccine due to his antibodies. The reason Jake is immune is,
Claire Bear?
well, because unlike Alex Wesker,
Robbie, what did
he's
I say about
actually
using the
Wesker's
word
child.
Claire Bear?
So, you're Wesker Jr.
Wesker, you lost me.
In 2013, the American president decides that enough is enough with all these bioterror incidents, and it's time to spill the beans about what really happened in Raccoon City.
Not the
However,
beans!
before he can, there's another infection attack, and the president, now a zombie, has to be taken down by his loyal agent and series favorite,
Squirrely.
Leon Kennedy. Ada Wong then arrives and tells Leon that National Security Advisor Derek Simmons is affiliated with Neo Umbrella.
Danny, I'm
and
not
behind
sure
the
what
terror
you're
attack
saying.
that zombified the press. Leon heads to China in pursuit of Simmons. Chris Redfield, now racked with post-traumatic stress and a thirst for revenge after his team was
can you
slaughtered
grab
by Ada,
my
also heads to
my
China, as does Jake, because, you know, plot.
Hell yeah.
Right, there's a lot going on here, so let's
make
do this
sure to
bit
get
really
the
quickly.
ass
Chris finds
jerky.
out Jake's true identity, and despite an awkward moment when Chris tells Jake he's killed his dad, they mostly work it out. Simmons dies, Chris's mate Piers is wounded, and then grows a new arm with the C virus and saves Chris. Jake kills his boss, who's not worth talking about, and we also find out that there are two Adas, one being an imposter called Carla, and that explains all the outfit changes, and finally all the good guys win and go their separate ways. Basically, a lot is going on, and it's not very good. So maybe just
Okay, we're
ignore
gonna
it.
incorporate my eyebrow.
Disney Plus, Hulu, and HBO Max. It's the best of everything together.
I hope you can walk because I'm not carrying you.
The definitive predators.
I miss all the gross stuff?
It's the ultimate bundle for an unbelievable price.
Ass.
7.
What's for lunch today?
In 2017,
I don't
Ethan
know
Winters
yet.
is searching for his missing wife, Mia.
I
Eventually
had a
following
pretty
the
big
trail deep
breakfast,
into
so I'm
Louisiana,
good right
where he
now.
finds her imprisoned by a very odd and very disgusting family, the Bakers.
Welcome to the family.
Y'all, the Bakers are
Ethan
fantastic.
is attacked and captured by Jack
Well, they
Baker,
were.
and then forced to join in with a vomit-inducing family dinner with his wife Marguerite, son Lucas, and an elderly woman. It turns out this family has been infected by something called mold, some sort of parasitic
It's just
fungal virus
honestly
that has
really
the added
cool
benefit
how
of
they
resilience,
went
but the
with
downside of making you a bit gross. After escaping and managing
that
to
family
kill
being
hideous
like
forms
a
of Jack and
really
Marguerite,
good one.
Ethan reunites with his wife and develops a serum to help shake off her apparent mold infection. After trying to flee on a boat, the vessel is capsized by a mysterious creature that turns out to be a girl named Evelyn, a bioweapon that Mia, who it turns out is a secret agent, was tasked with escorting. Turns out Evelyn was responsible for the Baker family's mind-altering infection because she was desperate for her own family. You know, like all bioweapons are. Classic
I've
stuff.
not seen Labyrinth.
Listen,
Yeah,
You'll
they're the
just
family
watch
from
that.
Resident Evil.
Side note,
7.
you can also find a note from Alyssa Ashcroft in Resident Evil 7. Remember her from Resident Evil Outbreak? Turns out she's still a jobbing journo who's investigating the disappearances in Louisiana. After injecting Evelyn with a toxin, she reverts to her true form as the old woman at the Baker's disgusting dinner.
We were
Turns out
gonna
that
watch
she's
it
been
the other
rapidly
day.
aging. Evelyn mutates into a giant blob like all classic Resident Evil bosses, and after a final confrontation with Ethan, with a little help from a recently arrived military squad, she's finally destroyed. In a final twist, the leader of the military squad
Start
is
it
revealed
in
to
a
be
circle.
none other than a very different looking Chris Redfield, emerging from a helicopter that's
gosh.
branded Umbrella.
When they debuted the new look of Chris in
After Ethan escapes,
RE7,
Chris and his team pursue Lucas Baker, who it turns out was never actually
Many
under Evelyn's
people
mind
were
control
not
due
happy.
to a serum
Let me
provided
just
to him
tell
by
you,
a new
okay?
shadowy organization called
I know,
The
I know.
Connections.
So many people
The
say
Connections
it's
were
like
behind Evelyn's
have the
creation,
same
and they
reaction
were
whenever
using
I
Lucas
say
to
that
gather
I
more
haven't seen
data
it
on.
yet.
But he also planned to betray his masters anyway. You know, like every Resident Evil villain ever.
Lucas!
After finally working his way through a series of traps, Chris manages to kill a mutated Lucas and finally returns to base for an urgent call.
Game over. Resident Evil.
Over 3 years later, Ethan and Mia's Eastern Europe-based family Bliss is violently interrupted by the Hound Wolf Squad, led by returning and turtlenecked Chris Redfield, who now oddly looks like he did before Resident Evil 7 again. Weird. Chris and his goons shockingly and mercilessly gun down Mia and then kidnap Ethan and his child, Rosemary.
No! What? Why?
Ethan wakes to find himself stuck in a rural village and runs into terrified villagers who've been cowering from a horde of marauding lycans. Ethan, on a desperate quest to find his missing daughter Rose, works his way through the abandoned village and into a nearby castle inhabited by vampires.
Ethan,
most notably,
W
an
Dad.
enormous goth mummy called Lady Dimitrescu.
Oh, be careful what you wish for, Ethan Winters.
Lady
Here
D,
you
along
go.
with a
I
group
could
of
show you.
oddities, belong to a
That's what it
worshipping
looks
cult
like,
for Mother
or
Miranda,
looked like, I
a
should say.
godlike,
I did edit
mold-infected
it a
leader
little
who,
bit in
a quest to bring her daughter back
Photoshop
life,
to remove
ended
my
up becoming
eyebrows and my
consumed by the
nose.
infection and spreading it to her 4 elevated lords and houses. In his journeys,
And
Ethan
smooth
discovers a
out
crest
the,
for these 4 lords
my
that looks
lips.
eerily similar to Umbrella's logo. Hey, remember them? Ethan's
Yeah,
journey to
so we're doing a
rescue
different
Rose
one
and
each
take down
day.
Miranda's lords eventually leads
I'm
him to
turning
Chris
into a
Redfield.
liquor
Chris
today.
explains that the Mia he gunned
So
down
this
wasn't
was
actually
on
Mia at all,
Monday,
but rather a shape-shifting
and this was
Mother
Tuesday,
Miranda, who considered
and
Ethan
then
and Mia's
today's
daughter
a
Rose
liquor.
to be the Evelyn successor based on the fact that both her parents were infected by the mold.
She changed her appearance and pretended to be Mia. Seems she also survived being shot, so now I'm here to finish the job.
Rose was born with unique properties, and after Miranda finally confronted Ethan in her true form, she explained that the mold would help rebirth Rose as her daughter Eva. Miranda then,
And
without
thank you.
hesitation, rips out Ethan's heart.
Miranda, you coward! Come on and face me!
Don't worry. Your death will come quick. You will join the Megamycetes records.
Chris and the Hound Wolf squad launch a full assault against Mother Miranda, battling through her waves of
My
monsters
bad.
and destroying a large mold barrier that's now protecting her. Once inside, Chris and the team discover a large mold root that's called the Megamycete. That turns out to be the source of the mold that's plagued the village, but also the Baker family in Resident Evil 7. Turns out the Megamycete not only infects its victims, but it also absorbs their DNA and memories. Chris plants a detonation device, but before destroying the mold once and for all, decides to pass through
wonder how
Miranda's
much
lab for
money
one last lord.
they had
He
to
discovers
pay
the entirety
Capcom
of Miranda's plan
to
and her
put,
quest to find a suitable vessel for her daughter Ava's consciousness to be reborn into. Miranda was also responsible for the
Prius
creation of
in there.
Evelyn, working with the connections. Later in the lab, Chris discovers the biggest shock of all, when it's revealed that Oswald E. Spencer, founder of Umbrella, was actually a student of Miranda and began work on the progenitor virus based on her teachings. To honor this, the Umbrella logo took inspiration from Miranda's 4 Lords symbol that Ethan discovered earlier. Not only was Miranda responsible for everything in Resident Evil 7 and Village, but she was also the inspiration that started it all. After Chris finally works his way through the exposition hallway, he discovers the true and very much alive Mia, who reveals that Ethan also isn't quite dead yet. It's revealed that Miranda didn't kill Ethan, Jack Baker did, way back in the start of Resident Evil 7. Ethan was infected by mold, which had been keeping him moving this entire time, and explained how a man could regularly reattach body parts with just a bit of healing juice. Despite this, Ethan is falling apart, but can muster enough for one last stand with Mother Miranda, where upon defeating the big bad once and for all, he manages to pass his daughter to Chris and take ownership
I mean, the
of
amount of
detonation
people that
device
are
would
actually
destroy
going to
the
be able to
village,
buy
the
it
mold,
too.
and himself once and for all.
Like,
Ethan triggers the explosion as Chris,
more
Mia,
so the
and Rose
advertisement
escape.
that's there for the Prius. The amount of people that are actually going to be able to buy it is going to be like slim to none. Thank you for liking the live, by the way.
In 2037, and now much older Rose is learning about her abilities, one of which is the power to connect with a surviving piece of the mold root recovered from the incident 16 years prior. After jacking in, Rose enters a new realm, full of the memories from the victims the Megamycete had consumed. Rose then takes a jaunt through a version of the village, guided by a spirit called Michael, who ends up being Ethan's remaining consciousness. She's also taunted by the trapped consciousness of Mother Miranda, who is desperate to escape the realm. With the help of Ethan and her newfound abilities, Rose manages to defeat Mother Miranda and share one last moment with her father before she returns to the real world.
I love you, Rose.
I love you too, Dad.
In the aftermath, Rose visits Ethan's grave while shadowed by a mysterious agent who calls her Evelyn. And after threatening him, Rose reveals that she has abilities that even Chris doesn't know about.
Oh, it's just a joke, Rose.
I can show you things even Chris doesn't know I can do.
We have a clear shot.
Stand down.
And that's it, the entire plot of Resident Evil that matters before you dive into Resident Evil Requiem. Yes, we skipped over some bits here or there, but there's a lot to cover in the wacky world of Resident Evil. Now, excuse me while I set my base to self-destruct and vow to get my revenge. And if you like that video, why not check out our final hands-on
okay,
preview
you know
of Resident
how
Evil
in
Requiem.
Resident
And for
Evil
everything else Resi, stick
Village,
with
those
IGN.
of you that... Who here has played Resident Evil Village? With Chris's Porsche? Not even Leon's?
Of a 3-part series where we'll be going over the entire story from the
Okay,
Resident
did
Evil
you
franchise. I've been meaning to do this for a while, but with Resident
Do you
Evil
guys
9
care if
on
I
the
like talk
horizon,
about
this
what
is the
happens
perfect time
in
to take on this
the
mammoth project. How the videos will work is like this.
The
In this one,
storyline?
I'll be tackling Resident Evil 0, 1, 2, 3, and Code Veronica.
Your
and
brain's
also
not working
Survivor
here.
from
I'm
the
making one on
PS1,
my
as these titles
forehead.
will take place between July
You could use it, okay?
1998 and December 1998. In part
I
2
got
of the video
you.
series, I'll be doing the Dark Side Chronicles, the Umbrella Chronicles where relevant, Resident Evil 4, Revelations, Resident Evil 5, Revelations 2, and Resident Evil 6, along with a couple of the CGI movies.
So what
And
I
finally,
didn't understand
in part
with
3, we'll be
it,
looking at Resident Evil 7, its
with
DLCs,
Shadows of
8,
Rose,
Shadow of Rose, and 9. But there's not much else to say now other than there will be spoilers
is
for
like
the entire Resident Evil series, so let's begin.
Ethan was in this other realm, but like, was
A great
he
place
able to
start this
come
video
back?
is to look at the origins of the overarching antagonists of the Resident Evil series.
Because at the
and that
end
is the
of
Umbrella
7,
Corporation. But we'll first focus upon one of the founders of Umbrella.
he
and that
was
is Oswald Earl Spencer. The Spencer family, when Oswell was growing
or the
up,
end of 8,
were among the elites of European
they
social
showed
circles.
him like
But by the time
walking
that
down the
Oswell
street.
came to inherit his family's fortune, the state of the Spencer legacy had deteriorated somewhat. Growing up, Oswald took a keen interest in eugenics. And it was through this interest that he read
So
a
my
book
thing
by a
is, like,
British
did he
explorer named
come
Henry
back?
Travis, and the book documented a 3-decade journey through Africa in which Travis documented plants and animals along with the indigenous that lived there. But back to Spencer. He would go to university in order to study
Technically,
medicine,
Rose would
and
have
meet two
had
people there,
would have the
James
power to bring him
Marcus
back,
and
but this is
Edward
just
Ashford.
okay.
Their importance will become
I
clear
like it.
later
Just
on.
confused me.
Spencer went on
Like,
his own jaunts across
did it
Europe,
mean
visiting
that
such
he
places like
was
Romania,
back?
where he almost died, and visited a small village. He worked with a woman there called Miranda, who was working with a black substance which itself had the ability
Can't
to
see
mutate.
chat.
She wished to use
Probably
this to
too,
revive her
it
dead
might be
daughter who had died
because
from Spanish flu.
YouTube's
Oswald,
a bit
despite respecting Miranda, parted ways
slow,
with her as his worldview
but
and his goals were vastly different from hers.
you might
Nonetheless, he was
be
inspired. With
hearing
view
the
that human race
conversations
was
I'm having
ineffective and
on
destined to
Kick.
destroy itself at some point, he believed that humankind needed to evolve to survive. So he started to study the field of virology. Oswell then formed a eugenics circle, inviting James Marcus and Edward Ashford. 2 others would join too, but they aren't really important
Thanks,
to the wider
TikTok.
story. Anyway, Oswald jumped back into the adventures of Henry Travis and read about a plant in his book that an ancient tribe in Africa called the Ndipaya.
yeah, but if
would
you want to
use as
join
part
in
of a
on
ritual.
Kick, you're
The
more than
flower
welcome
contained
to.
the poison within it, and after consuming it, one particular member of the tribe would mutate, obtaining superhuman abilities, and grow very tall as a result. This tribe would then live under the rule of this mutated king, who lived for centuries, and the tribe built an underground city using
See, I don't
reflective
think that they'll
construction
do a
techniques, and these
follow-up game
techniques
of
allow
that.
the sun to shine underground into the city, thereby creating an environment for this flower to grow. The discovery of this plant was exactly what Oswald
I just think
and
I
by
was more
extension the
so like
eugenics circle are
confused
looking for. A potential virus able to create mutations in human
as
beings.
to like what
So in
you saw in
1966,
8
Dr.
and then
James
what
Marcus and another
you
man, a Dr. Brandon
more than
Bailey,
anything
set
got
out on a short expedition to the savannah in
in
order to find
Shadows.
this flower. Finding it along with the underground city, the virus in the flower, upon further
Are you
study,
typing
did
Christopher?
indeed
Is that
contain
what's
within it
what's going
an
on?
RNA virus.
I'm guessing.
Upon isolating this virus and having to deal with regular attacks by the Ndipaya tribe, the 2 returned home with what they had named Progenitor, and their plan was for it to eventually be used militarily. They were having problems though, in that they were having trouble recreating the conditions in which the flower could not only thrive, but keep on producing the virus within it.
Oh,
With lack of
Ethan's not
results
showing
and
up?
no breakthroughs, Brandon Bailey would return to Africa to continue his research there, whilst Dr. Marcus would stay in
Chris?
the US at the request of Spencer. After a breakthrough in which the progenitor being exposed to a cell caused the cell to revive and mutate, Spencer wanted to fund this research even further, so he set up a company with the purpose of using that company as a front for their research into the progenitor virus, and it could provide the funding needed. Spencer had the logo resemble a symbol he'd seen in Eastern Europe, in the village, which was the symbol of the 4 houses of families in the area. This also inspired the name of the company too, with it being called Umbrella Pharmaceuticals. Spencer then offered
Am I gonna
Dr.
watch
Marcus
The
a
Bride?
job, as he'd now set up the Spencer Foundation. Dr. Marcus would be able
Is it
to
a
continue
TV
his
show or
research
is
into the
it
virus
coming
on
out?
the
Is it a
strict condition
movie?
that his research results were to be reported to Brandon Bailey.
I remember
and only Brandon Bailey.
us watching
Spencer
the
would set up
thing
a
for
facility
it.
located in the Arklay Mountains, and it would become the home of the Umbrella Executive Training School.
If it's a movie, I have a lot of other things I need to catch up with.
The training school
It is a
itself
movie, okay.
served to recruit child prodigies and train them, or rather indoctrinate the young scientists, into advancing Umbrella's research. This is where James Marcus would carry out his work. He wasn't too bothered where he did the research, as all he cared about was his work on the virus. Brandon Bailey would stay in
When
Africa
I have
in the meantime,
time
with
to,
Spencer
like,
and Umbrella
do
having
stuff,
hired a number of mercenaries to keep the Indie Pirate
that's
at bay.
more so
He would
just,
cultivate
like,
more progenitor cultures,
relaxing
and
a
these would be
bit,
sent to Dr.
too.
Marcus back at the
I'm
training
usually
school.
sleeping,
Work would then
unfortunately.
commence on facilities there in the ruins of Africa, much to the annoyance of Bailey as the construction was interfering with his own research.
Guys, yes?
Another laboratory would be built in the Arklay
Yeah,
Mountains.
I have so
and
much I need
Spencer
to
would
watch.
hire renowned New York architect George Trevor to design and build a large mansion to sit on top of limestone caverns, inside
Under
which
my
Spencer had built a lab
umbrella.
where additional research could be carried out in secret, with this
LA.
laboratory simply being called the Arklay Laboratory. The 2 sites would be connected via a railway system that Umbrella would use in order to transport staff and researchers to and from the facilities, this train being called the
I'm having fun.
Express. The mansion itself was designed to be very similar to Spencer's mansion in Europe, and was to have a number of secret rooms and traps. But when George had finished it, Spencer planned to dispose of George, his wife Jessica, and 14-year-old daughter Lisa, managing to do so only because George knew all the mansion's secrets. But waste not, want not, and Spencer had both Jessica and Lisa used as test subjects to further their research
That's
on
so
the
sad.
progenitor virus. Anyway, nothing significant would happen at the
Sinister,
training school
thank you for
until the
liking
year
the live.
1978, when the assistant director of the school, who would be the
Yes.
one to educate the
What are you
students,
sipping on,
would write
Vladdy?
about 2 standout scientists that had joined. These 2 were Dr. Albert Wesker and Dr. William Birkin. The 2 were ruthlessly
Well, I
competitive
said hi.
and were even
Get the
described as
chance.
cruel
Tell her I
by
said
the
hello.
assistant director, but Wesker in particular is someone that Oswald
Probably
Spencer
when
is
she
familiar
gets
with.
home from work.
Project W was a eugenics program developed by Oswald Spencer, as he wanted to produce what he considered a superior race of human beings. The W, as you'd probably have guessed, stands for Wesker, after a Dr. Wesker, the guy who ran the program. Essentially, gifted children from all over the world would be kidnapped and would be raised with a high level of education and would be raised by the ideals of Spencer
Yeah, I'm not
himself.
really that
All
pumped
these
for, like,
children
a
would
new
then receive
Scream
the last name Wesker.
movie.
There are at least 13 of these Weskers, as detailed on a computer entry in Spencer's mansion over in Europe. Albert was one of these gifted children, as was another, a woman who'd received the name Alex
I want
Wesker.
movies that
Difference
don't
between the
necessarily
two,
need
though,
to stand
is that
behind the
Alex
name
was
of a
told about this
franchise.
program, as opposed to Albert, who was not. Like most other Project W subjects, Albert had gone out into the world and ended up working for Umbrella through the training school. All the Wesker children were given an experimental virus, and this was phase 2 of the plan. It was designed to set apart the ones who were exceptionally gifted from those who were not.
You're pretty
There's
sure?
more to this, but we aren't quite there yet in the timeline.
You should
And
ask
we'll cover
her.
Project W a bit more in part 2 of this video series. So when it came to research on the progenitor virus, there
Yeah,
were
what
actually
are they
3 different
necessarily
areas of
doing in the
research.
new,
They wanted to be able to produce bioweapons that
Scream
would rule out
movies?
any need for a large conventional army, something that the US military could use. Work began on trying to produce the T-virus, or the Tyrant virus. The Tyrant project was essentially, and initially at least, a super soldier program. 3 different strains came out of this. Spencer's project developed the type A and B strains
Slashing
of
people?
progenitor,
Wow.
but these weren't very good. Remember I mentioned Edward Ashford? Well, he worked on his own strain in Europe alongside his son Alexander. But that didn't really end up going too well for the Ashfords, as in 1968, the conniving Oswell would arrange for an outbreak at the lab in which Edward Ashford was killed. Finally, it was Dr. James Marcus that managed to produce a usable T-virus strain, reporting his success back to Brandon Bailey over in Africa. He didn't like any of the students working with him on the T-virus research, although his exception to this rule were both Albert Wesker and William Birkin, and such was Dr. Marcus's admiration for them that he encouraged the assistant director of the training school to encourage a bit of competition between the two. Then the breakthrough came after he had introduced the DNA of leeches into the progenitor virus. With this strain now suitable for further research, weapons research to be specific, he would start testing on animals. The animals exhibited increased growth and aggression. He wished, however, to further research onto human test subjects, and he would do this by luring the students of the training school into his lab, and he'd tell them to touch the leeches. He would commit terrible acts, and would even subject staff members and students to torture methods, such as gas torture. He would keep some of them for future study. Some of them were experimented on and sent to other Umbrella labs for further research to be carried out on them. But just as Spencer had done with Edward Ashford, he now wanted Dr. Marcus out of the way. In the same year that Wesker and Birkin had joined the school in 1978, thanks in large part to a slew of scandals regarding experimentation,
you gonna make the same movie over? It's like the vet. Oh my gosh!
Shut down.
Family.
Research personnel were to be relocated to different Umbrella facilities.
Ow!
Both Wesker and Birkin were sent to the Arklay laboratory, which was nearby, and they were able to steal a sample of Dr. Marcus's completed T-virus strain, which elevated them both to the level of senior researchers at the Arklay lab. Wesker, along with Birkin, then managed to create a new strain derived from a virus, which allowed
wearing
this new strain to
trousers
get past the immune system more efficiently. This meant that not only would the subjects not die, as was expected, but they would reanimate. But back to Dr. Marcus. Dr. Marcus
is trying to stop him for good. Oh lord. Okay.
But Marcus had become quite fond of his leeches. After choosing to stay there at the now closed laboratory and carrying on his research, on January 13th, Marcus
because it's not accurate,
to seize control of Umbrella by presenting his research to them. But Spencer
people
knew
find
what
anything and
Marcus's
everything to
intentions
complain
were
about,
and decided to strike first. And then in 1988, Umbrella security services made their way into the lab along with Wesker and Birkin, killing Dr. Marcus. Wesker and Birkin took his T-virus research sample with them to the Arklay lab, and Dr. Marcus, as well as his leeches, including the Queen, were disposed of, albeit rather shoddily. The negligence of the disposal would set off a chain of events that would change the world. But before we look at what that entails, let's look a bit into what Wesker and Birkin would work on. Through further experimentation with using the T-virus on animals, Birkin birthed the Cerberus project, which produced attack dogs, basically. However, like most other animal-type BOWs, these didn't have much sense and were of low intelligence. Other BOWs created were the insect-based chimeras and the reptile-based hunters. They wanted to introduce the T-virus to humans with high intelligence, but the odds of this being achievable were very low. With only a 1 in 1 million chance that someone would have the genetic makeup to mutate into a tyrant, instead of a regular dumb as a stump infected, they'd hit a wall. This is when they turned to George Trevor's daughter Lisa, still alive and being held captive all those years.
Thank you, Pro.
Essentially, an Umbrella lab in Europe had developed a parasite called Nemesis A, or rather Alpha. It had been created in order to combat the mental degradation that came with infection by the T-virus.
To see how it gets so buff.
Obtaining one of these parasites, Birkin implanted it into Lisa Trevor, and her body not only was able to destroy the parasite, but absorbed its DNA into hers. A new progenitor strain, which Dr. Birkin called the G, or Golgotha virus, came from this. Birkin considered Golgotha to surpass the performance of the T-virus. So did Oswald Spencer, as it happens, as he was interested in its capabilities in regard to eugenics. Birkin had hoped that him refining and perfecting Golgotha would earn him a seat on the Umbrella board. Birkin would leave the Arklay laboratory.
It's not that people like to complain about films per se, it's just people like to complain about everything.
Dr. Christine Henry, a woman who Spencer knew quite well, with Birkin handing over his research on the T-virus to a researcher called John Clemens. Birkin wasn't in France long.
Like somebody will be like, "Hey guys, I learned how to breathe today." Well, you didn't do it this way, so.
It itself sat right underneath Raccoon City, being called Nest. And in 1998, Birkin completed his masterpiece, his life's work. At some point, Wesker, who by this point had also had a career in the US military as one of their engineering officers, would be tasked by Umbrella to infiltrate the Raccoon Police's STARS unit, which stands for the Special Tactics and Rescue Service. He became the leader of Alpha Team, pretty much commanding the entire
leader of the pack.
Unit. But more on the G-virus a bit later in the video. So with Dr. Marcus's decaying body lying in the water, the Queen Leech entered his mouth, merging its own DNA with his, meaning that the dead James Marcus became infected with the T-virus, at which point the Queen ate part of Dr. Marcus's brain, thereby inheriting his memories. Believing that it had been reborn as Dr. Marcus, it also believed that its main purpose was to get revenge on those responsible for his death. Quite remarkably, this Queen Leech was able to transform its body into what Marcus had looked like in his earlier years. In May 1998, this is when the proverbial would
I
hit the
just
fan.
used a
The
makeup
Queen Leech would
remover
then
wipe.
go to the Arklay laboratory and cause an outbreak there, with a whole load of researchers there
Hey,
becoming
Slash,
infected with
yeah?
the epsilon strain of the T virus, and as a result of this outbreak, a load of BOWs escaped into the Arklay Mountains. What better way to get back to
She
Spencer
started
and Umbrella
laughing, which
than by
made you
causing a mass
conflicted.
and potentially
Tane, what's
worldwide
up?
outbreak that would destroy not only
Oh, thank you for
Umbrella,
the hydrate.
but the world itself. On July 23rd, 1998, Umbrella's train, the
Where's
Ecliptic
Day?
Express,
He's probably
is hurtling
sleeping.
through Raccoon Forest as it's filled with Umbrella staff who
He's
have been
sick.
assigned to rebuild and reopen the training school when the train suddenly comes under attack by leeches. The Queen Leech is nearby, standing on top of a mountain, and is singing. Everyone on the train is, as a result, infected with the T-virus. 2 hours later, the
Imagine
Raccoon
being
Police
infected by
Department's
somebody
Special Tactics
singing.
and Rescue Service are flying over the mountains via chopper. The team, who make up Bravo Team, are actually there to investigate grisly murders in the Arklay Mountains, as the murders have an element of cannibalism to them. Stars have been sent because Umbrella and the Raccoon Police Department itself tried and failed to explain the murders, resulting in the case being taken over by Stars and the Arklay Mountains being closed off to tourists. The Bravo team's
I thought you
chopper
made
is
friends
downed
with
and on the ground.
Vladdy. No?
The team searched the immediate area only to find a crashed vehicle which belongs to the military police. It seems a prisoner, Second Lieutenant Billy Cohen, was being transferred, but the two drivers are dead and he's missing. With this now being a priority for them, the Bravo team leader Enrico orders his team to find and detain Billy Cohen. Not long into her search, the Bravo team medic Rebecca Chambers
Oh,
comes
he's
across
drinking
the
without
now
you.
stopped Ecliptic
Oh.
Express. Stepping on board the train, Rebecca finds blood-stained seats, along with the personal items of people that are missing from the carriage.
Well, why don't
Moving
you
into
go
the next
home?
Carriage, she asks anyone
So
there
then
to
you
identify
can
themselves,
also
but finds a
partake
dead
with
male
him.
in his seat, and his flesh looks rotten. Whilst distracted by a handheld radio, the man gets to his feet and goes for her, and she finds herself surrounded by more undead monsters. Taking them down or escaping, she retreats and finds a note in a private cabin which shows the people on this train were aware of the rumours around murders in the suburbs and their fear of it potentially being related to the research carried out on the T-virus. In this same car, she finds another undead man, but is approached from behind. To her surprise, it's the missing prisoner, Billy Cohen. He points a gun at her, recognises her as Stars, and he walks away. Rebecca tells him that he's under arrest, but this does not deter him, and he continues to walk away. At that moment, one of her Bravo team's squad members smashes through the window of the train car. The squad member, Edward, says that the forest is full of zombies and monsters, and he then passes away. Zombie dogs then try to attack Rebecca. In the upstairs section
I'm gonna
of
be
another carriage, Rebecca
only-
finds a load of what looks like eggs there, covered in slime. She gets a
Oh,
call over the
sober
radio
person
from her
here?
squad leader, Enrico, telling her about Billy Cohen. A document
We have a
inside
good
his
amount of
transport
sober
states that he
people
killed as many as 23
in this
people. And
chat.
not only that, but he was also institutionalized. This indicates that he's a very dangerous man, and Enrico tells her not to hesitate if she's got the chance to kill him.
You're
or
trying to
his
be
transition
serious,
goes
where?
dead. With no other choice but to move through the train cars, she encounters Billy again. This time he's a little bit more open to a conversation and suggests because of the dangers present, they should work together. Rebecca is hesitant and refuses, telling Billy that she can handle herself. Moving up to the restaurant car, she finds an elderly man sat at the table. She tries to rouse him, but his head falls off, transforming into a pile of leeches, which themselves form a human shape. Taking the creature down, the leeches go for her, but she is saved by Billy.
In
They
the
both hear the
club.
sound of the Queen Leech stood atop a mountain.
You're
singing.
17 days
Of course, they
sober.
have no
Let's
idea
go.
who this is, but Rebecca does now realize that she is in way over her head, and her best chance of survival is to team up with Billy. The train starts up again and is moving along the tracks, but who is controlling it? Making their way across
Sorry,
the top
Lone
of the train
Wolf.
cars,
Yeah, we
getting
had
separated,
the
and
same
encountering a
stuff
large
that
Scorpion BOW, they
we
eventually
thought
find
was
out that the
done
train has moved as a
happen
result of
today.
the Umbrella Security
So-
Services Delta Squad, who have been ordered to get it moving by Dr. Wesker and Dr. Birkin, so that knowledge of this does not get out. This is also so they, Umbrella, can investigate what happened on the train and destroy the train afterwards. With Delta Squad having been taken out by the leeches, Billy and Rebecca realize that this train is picking up speed and is in danger of derailing. The leeches have also started to hatch from their eggs.
I got
and will
there
attack
early, so I
Rebecca
walked
and Billy.
outside waiting for the
With only
place
a
to
few
open
minutes
behind
to slow the
two
train down or
turbo
to stop it, they
virgins.
managed to
One of
slow
them
it,
said
but
such a
this still
shitty
results
thing.
in
I was
a
actually
crash,
blown
and the train
away.
comes to a rather violent stop in what appears to be some sort of underground station. Leaving the now wrecked train, Billy and Rebecca move inside of a building, which is the training school. Rebecca approaches a portrait of Dr. James Marcus and recognizes him as the leech monster from the restaurant car. Billy and Rebecca don't know that they're being watched on the cameras by Wesker and Birkin, and Wesker identifies Rebecca as a rookie STARS member. Wesker doesn't know who Billy is, though. Dr. Marcus's voice speaks over the intercom, reminding people of the Umbrella Company motto. But Wesker and Birkin see that it's the Queen Leech who is broadcasting this message, and they're confused since, to them, Dr. Marcus is long dead. The Queen Leech tells them that he is the reason behind the outbreaks at the school, the train, and the Arkley laboratory, as revenge on Umbrella. He then starts to sing again, and this causes the leeches to listen as if receiving orders, once again
Stupid
forming
leeches.
to resemble Dr. Marcus. Anyway, with no other
I
choice,
hate
Billy and
Resident Evil
Rebecca
Zero
explore the school,
so
confronted by
much.
multiple leech monsters resembling Dr. Marcus. During their time here, the pair also find out what happened back in the 70s, and Marcus's grim experimentation on not only adult subjects, but the young students at the training school too. They also fight many horrific BOWs in both the training school itself and the secret labs beneath it. Whilst this has been going on,
that's the one that
Wesker
took
and
me
Birkin put
54
two and two
hours.
together and discovered who the mysterious man, the Queen Leech, is, stating that
I
this could
almost
sink
quit
Umbrella.
that game.
Wesker says this means their jobs will be gone, as well
That
as
would have been the
Spencer's,
first
so he
Resident
plans
Evil
to say
that,
goodbye
like,
to Umbrella.
I was just
He
like,
mentions
nope.
a bioweapon that is utilizing the T-virus and that it's near to completion. All they need to do is acquire relevant combat data. Birkin refuses to abandon his work, stating that he still has work to do on his Golgotha virus, to which Wesker says that he can do what he wishes, as he plans to lure the other STARS members to the mansion. This is how he'll obtain his combat data. In regard to how they'll deal with the Queen Leech, Birkin recalls a self-destruct device located in the basement, and he says that he'll set this off himself. But back to Billy and Rebecca. She fell down a hole in the floor and requires saving, so Billy manages to rescue her.
Fell down the
After
hole.
which, Enrico contacts her and asks her if she's managed to locate Billy. She lies and says that she has not. Billy then tells her the reason he was arrested and institutionalized. He was serving with the US Marines in Africa during a civil war. His squad was sent to confront some guerrilla forces in the jungle. On their journey to the base, some of Billy's squad caught a fever, and some were wiped out by guerrillas. 4 Marines were left, including Billy. When they got to their destination, the base wasn't that tall. It was a village filled with civilians, but Billy's
Yes,
leader
there's
ordered
always
the
a way
squad
to chat,
open
which I'm
fire
very,
anyway.
very
Billy
happy,
refused
like,
to fire on them,
there
and
are
his
the
squad leader knocked
options.
him out,
It just
whilst the
sucks
other
when you're,
Marines
like,
went on
used
massacre
to
the villagers.
being in
Billy
one
was then
place, you
sentenced
know?
to death by lethal injection and was being transported to a military site for his execution when the vehicle was attacked and Billy came across the train. Pushing on through the facility and fighting more BOWs, Billy also finds an old photo of the singing man.
He was talking about
Billy
how
is
long
surprised
he'd
to
been
see the
going
man
to that
named on the
specific
back
comic
as
shop,
a young
and
James Marcus.
Sassel says, yeah,
Given
I've been
Dr.
going here for
Marcus's
5
age,
years, thought
Billy
about
considers
changing
that the
stores
singing
because
man may be Dr.
manager's
Marcus's
always
son,
been
or
really
maybe his
good, but when her
grandson.
friend
Billy and Rebecca
died, the
also find a
vibes fell
working
off,
cable
so I
car
started looking
and
to
hope
go.
that maybe it could lead to a way out
Are
of
you
there.
kidding me?
But as they prepare to get on
To listen to
board,
his comic
Billy is attacked by a
podcast, and I wish I had
BOW
listened
and
so
falls
I
over
could
the side of a
send
railing.
send
Using
people
the
to
cable
shit
car
on
with the
it.
hope
Oh
of
my
finding
lord.
Billy alive somewhere,
Like,
Rebecca
gee.
comes out and what she learns is the Umbrella
So
chemical plant.
you're what you're
She
saying
finds it almost
is
completely
that
deserted,
I
other
don't
than a
know,
few
maybe she
BOWs
was
being
grieving?
present. Using a large elevator designed for trains, she's approached by Enrico.
Like,
Rebecca is surprised that he is alive, and Enrico says that the rest of the squad should have arrived before
that's
him.
crazy.
He says that if they go straight from there, they'll arrive at the old mansion. Rebecca says that she needs to find Billy, telling Enrico that she'll catch up to him. Waiting for another elevator to take her down, she is approached by something. This is one of the T-001 tyrants from the Tyrant Project.
She'd been like, you know what? You
Rebecca
should.
engages it
You
in
should
battle
go
whilst waiting
somewhere
for the
else.
elevator, but she's able to do enough damage to bring it down. Using the elevator, Rebecca descends to Umbrella's nest facility.
But at
whilst
the same
singing
time,
man,
he
Queen
is
Leech,
spending his
talks to
money
his
there,
leeches,
so maybe-
saying nothing will stop him from getting his revenge. Having
I
descended,
don't know.
Rebecca spots Billy clung to a rock in the stream, but there's something in the water with him, and it drags him off somewhere else. After rerouting power for the dam, Rebecca moves on. Here in the plant, she finds the workers have been infected thanks to James Marcus's leech friends. She tracks down Billy, still alive, and she pulls him onto a platform. And they spot the many human remains.
Like, how
in
you
this
gonna
area,
openly,
leading them
like,
to
talk
believe
shit like
this is
that
what caused the
in the
workers
morning
that
without my
plant
wife
become
wanting
infected
something,
by
so I have
Dr.
zero
Marcus
idea
not
about
disposing of them properly.
what lack of
The
anything
treatment plant
is.
manager's diary also mentions that Umbrella were having their industrial waste delivered there. Contaminated material that they were not able to process. That was until the plant
I
was
think
shut
I
down.
missed part of that
Of course, the plant was just a
conversation.
front to hide Birkin's laboratory here. Moving through the plant, fighting more
Maybe not.
monstrosities, including the T-001 tyrant who is back for more punishment, Rebecca and Billy come face to face
So you
with the
just
Queen
bit your
Leech,
tongue, yeah.
who reveals himself as such. He shows
Yeah,
himself as the old
those
Dr.
are those
James Marcus,
situations
and
where it's
explains
just
what happened
like-
to him in regard to his death, how he consumed Marcus's brain, inheriting his memories. The Queen Leech then reverts
Like,
to
you
his real
kind of weigh the
appearance
options
as
of like
a huge
what
leech,
would
and
be
Rebecca and
the
Billy are
best
forced
thing
fight
to
it.
do. especially like
they ascend in a cargo elevator
because you've been going there for quite a while now.
Alive and chases them up the elevator shaft.
And it's just kind of like,
the
hey,
self-destruct sequence is then activated by
just so
William
you know,
Birkin,
like such and such was just being a douchebag,
fighting the Queen Leech
saying this
again,
kind of
Billy and
stuff. But
Rebecca
at the
see
same
that it's
time, if
sensitive to
she's having like
sunlight.
a good day or something, being that person that kind of like
whilst Billy keeps the creature at bay. Getting all the warehouse windows
brings
open,
that
the
down.
creature is weakened,
I don't
and
know.
Billy finishes it off with a gunshot to the face.
Hey, Queenie!
I mean, hopefully that guy finds a different place to go to. Yeah. It's like I hate how much like people can genuinely suck. Like people could be like the best people that you've ever met, and really just change your life. And then you have people that are like,
Rebecca tells Billy that's where she needs to go next.
You have to remind yourself that there are actually good people out there too.
And that is what she'll report, taking his dog tags as proof. A few hours later, Star's Alpha team is headed to the mansion. Unbeknownst to them, this is all a ploy by Alpha Squad leader Albert Wesker to obtain combat data. They think they are there to investigate the murders in the Arklay Mountains and to search for the now missing Bravo team. On board the chopper are Alpha members Chris Redfield, who is also Alpha's point man, Joe Valentine, Barry Burton, Joseph Frost, and Albert Wesker, along with pilot Brad Vickers.
Yeah, it
Touching down
definitely
after
takes
spotting Bravo
a bit of
team's crashed and
time,
destroyed helicopter,
but
which contains the body of Kevin Dooley. Joseph Frost
it's
is attacked
fun.
by
It's fun
Cerberus,
when things
taking
kind
one of them
of
out, Chris, Jill, and Wesker
come together.
have to retreat to the mansion. And on the way, they spot Brad flying off in the chopper. Barry isn't accounted for, and in the mansion's main hall,
and it's cool to kind of see what you could
Jill, so they will go and check it out.
bring together with like
story, here
it doesn't even have to be like
and we'll be
crazy
following Chris's path
professional
through the game,
products.
although both paths are pretty much identical. Entering a corridor, Chris witnesses something horrific.
Died about 3 months ago, so I'm sure she would have been annoyed if I told her, but I don't think she would have been worse off there.
Jill and Wesker gone. He wonders where they went, but spots Jill's handgun on the ground. Chris encounters more undead wandering around the mansion, but manages to evade them. Returning to the body the zombie was feasting on, it stars Bravo team member Kenneth, and he's holding a VHS tape. Needing to find out what happened to Jill and Wesker, Chris explores the mansion. Fighting and putting down a load more zombies, Chris has to solve many puzzles because, as I mentioned earlier, Oswald Spencer requested these puzzles when the mansion was being designed by George Trevor. Chris also found a note stating that he should burn the undead after they've been killed. This is important because after a time, they'll transform into
The Crimson Heads,
Crimson Heads, which are extremely aggressive. Chris
Here
finds a diary
comes
from
the
an
Crimson
Umbrella
Head.
researcher which details experiments that had been carried out here at the labs linked to the mansion, and it mentions there'd been an accident in the lab and this is why the place is overrun. As you'll remember, that accident or leak was caused by the Queen Leech. Anyway, Chris finds another of the Bravo team members. Unfortunately, he is deceased as well, but Chris does come across a still alive Rebecca Chambers, who is tending to one of the other Bravo team members, Richard, who seemingly got bitten by a snake. But Rebecca says the bite mark is huge. Rebecca says that Richard needs serum, but the problem is that it's in another
Big
room.
brainin'.
Chris can choose to go and get the serum. If he's unable to get it in time, Richard will die, but on retrieving it, Rebecca administers it to him. He passes out and Rebecca and Chris move him to a safer room where he can recover. She says that as soon as Richard gets better, they'll both catch up to Chris. Chris comes face to face with the snake that attacked Richard. Just as Rebecca said, this is a huge serpent, and Chris is forced to either fight it or avoid it. He is eventually able to make it to the outer grounds of the mansion where he hears Wesker trying to contact him over the radio, but he is unable to clearly make out what he's saying. Still unsure about what's going on, Chris moves on and finds a small shack, inside of which
Unlocked a new fear though. She was a
writing
pretty
inside
healthy
is
and
barely
went
It's the
in
diary
from
of
something
Lisa
they had to
Trevor,
put her
who wrote
under,
about her
nothing
parents.
invasive, so
Also
no
inside
cutting,
this
just a
shack, he
camera,
encounters
and she
what
had
remains of Lisa
complications very
Trevor,
suddenly and boom,
grotesquely
gone. That
disfigured
is
from the
yeah,
experiments Umbrella
that's
had put her
very
through, and she knocks him down.
terrifying.
He's able to get out of there and further down a path, receives a radio call from Brad Vickers. Chris tries to respond, but Brad is unable to hear him as Chris's radio is broken. Draining a large pool of water, he finds that there's a path beneath it leading to an area with a small waterfall. Finding a residence building there, Chris has a look around the place.
It's kind of like that fear of like people that just have
moving a bookcase, Chris finds a ladder which leads
like
to an
aneurysms and stuff.
Now, if Richard had been saved earlier on, Chris finds him down here terrified as he's being stalked by a shark BOW. Richard then tries to warn Chris about the shark's presence and ends up getting eaten and killed by the shark himself. It turns out there are multiple sharks here in the aqua ring, but after Chris is able to drain the place, he finishes the dying sharks off by electrocuting them. With them out of the way, Chris finds a key and explores the rest of the residence. Reaching one area of the residence, Chris has to deal with a massive plant. The plant is the result of an Umbrella researcher,
not the plant,
Henry, and his scientific curiosity, in which he injected the living plant.
Dude, I love these brushes. They're so
produced what Umbrella called
they're so
42.
cheap, but they like
using the water from the aqua ring
blend it
below the
very,
residence
very
to
well.
keep itself alive, and it fed on the workers there. The thing is, it's kind of in the way, so having learned about a chemical that renders the entire plant dead within seconds, something called V-Jolt, Chris concocts the formula according to some instructions and administers it, killing Plant 42. This rewards Chris with a key from a previously blocked fireplace. Outside the room where he
sometimes
fought the
cheaper is
plant,
good.
Rebecca is there and Chris shares the news of Richard's death. Rebecca goes to a pharmaceutical room she'd seen, but Chris hears gunshots and discovers Wesker there. He is surprised to see Chris alive, and Chris asks where Jill is, and Wesker says that they got separated. He says there are many more answers as to what's going on in the mansion, so he suggests that Chris heads back there. Wesker then leaves. Leaving the residence, Chris hears from Brad again, who is still frantically trying to contact the Alpha and Bravo teams. Getting back to the mansion, it seems that hunters have decided to join the party. Using the key gotten from the residence, Chris finds a worrying copy of an email where it mentions something called X-Day, and this was a plan to lure STARS to the mansion to obtain combat data, which, remember, is the plan that Wesker discussed with Dr. Birkin. It reveals more about Wesker's plans.
But yeah, speaking of like surgery type stuff, that's like Tish having to get her tooth pulled.
Including all test subjects.
And granted, it's a small surgery, but I'm like
these orders had come straight from
freaking out.
Quarters, but of course, Chris has no idea yet that Wesker is a traitor. Chris later saves Rebecca from a hunter attack, and he tells her they have to find the others and find a way out of there. Moving on, Chris had to deal with a large snake in the mansion's library. This time, he is forced to fight it, but he prevails and the snake is dead. It slams its head against the bookcase, revealing an item that Chris...
Wonder if a liquor has ever bit their tongue, because damn, those teeth are gnarly. I'm sure. I wonder if they would necessarily grow it back.
And I'd guess that he felt that his knowledge of the mansion, since he designed it, would give him a big chance of success.
I'm guessing,
but it turns out that poor George was caught out by one of his own traps. He wrote his final thoughts in a book, and he mentions dark, wet caves. In the end, poor George Trevor would starve to death until his diary would be discovered by Chris 31 years later. What's creepy is that the gravestone here marks the final resting place of George Trevor, which means that he hadn't just fallen for his own trap, he'd also fallen for Spencer's trap, as he had foreseen how George would try to escape. Having found a large battery in the mansion, Chris uses it to get an elevator powered, and uses it to ascend to an area where Chris is able to turn the crank, and he hears the sound of the waterfall shutting off.
Yeah, this will be
sure enough,
her first time like going under.
It. So Chris descends
besides
via a
when
ladder
she was fixed
bottom,
when she was
finds
little.
In the caves that George had written
but
about in his journal.
Other than that,
down there in one of the tunnels, Chris comes across a member of Bravo
like
team,
with us having her.
Enrico. He's been shot, and he says that he's discovered that someone in STARS has turned traitor. Of course, we know who that is. Enrico falsely suspects Chris and points his gun at him before he is shot and killed, with their killer running off before Chris can get a good look at them. Taking a crank from Enrico's body and fighting hunters, Chris moves on through the caves and uses the crank to open up pathways, avoiding being crushed in the process, and has to do battle with more BOWs in the form of huge spiders.
Yeah,
descending even deeper into the caves, Chris hears the pain groans of Lisa Trevor, who is pursuing him. He comes across an area
which
where
honestly, obviously, like that makes me feel better about stuff. It's just a matter of
George's
like
wife, and that after the progenitor virus was administered to her,
those are my fur babies.
She failed to fuse with it and was subsequently disposed of.
And anytime like something has to be done that's like delayed, you know,
and she was to be observed further. Umbrella called it protective observation, which is what this room is. Lisa journaled on what happened after.
We're talking about Tish having to have surgery.
She felt dizzy, but she didn't know where her mother was. Jessica had promised Lisa that they would both escape together, leading Lisa to believe that her mother had escaped and left her behind. Little did she know that her mother was actually dead. She was happy later on, though, as she'd found her, but her mother...
Do you want me to turn this guy off?
Turns out an Umbrella researcher was tasked with impersonating Jessica.
Do ya?
She presumably cut the face off of this researcher and would vow to give her mother's face back to her. Lisa was unraveling the delayed effects of the progenitor virus now showing. But a ladder here leads to the shack where Chris first encountered Lisa, which explains where she had come
personally
from.
just put them on so
Using
you guys had like some background
in the main hall of the mansion,
noise.
Chris heads through it and follows a bunch of candlelit
Besides
tunnels.
just myself.
He finds Wesker down there.
Same vet who did Egret's
Spain,
Spain, gastropexy, apparently one of the best in the state.
Pushing 4 stone pillars
Yeah, but that's my tissue doodle.
In the middle, and with all the chains broken,
My tissue doodle.
Lisa has now found her mother.
We can't play music right now because we're on YouTube.
Inside the coffin, as well as the skeleton of Jessica Trevor, is a
unless we listen to violent stuff, but that still
gets
gets me demonetized.
The researchers kept giving her shots to make the itching go away, saying they were nutrition shots. Unfortunately, those shots would cause Jessica to somewhat forget Lisa, and she worried that she'd end up forgetting everything. Jessica would come up with a plan for them to escape together next time they were at the lab by pretending they were both unconscious. But this plan obviously did not work. Using an elevator, Chris finds himself at a fountain.
I'm happy
and
that
a staircase is revealed inside
stream today.
Using the staircase to descend it and going back underground again, he is now inside Umbrella's Arkham
Thanks,
laboratory.
Coffee, again for letting me cry.
There are plenty of infected Umbrella researchers down here, the handiwork of the Queen Leech. Through investigation, Chris discovers that the Epsilon strain of the T virus
it doesn't work if I don't. Okay.
Or rather, set loose in the laboratory, and because of the staff becoming infected, the BOWs had escaped into the mansion, the surrounding area, and into the Arkley Mountains, resulting in Star's Bravo team being sent.
I don't know if you calling him brother
one scientist we've already
makes
mentioned,
that situation worse
would write
or not.
To his girlfriend, Ada, telling her that he was changing into something else thanks to the virus, and for her to do everything in her power to make sure the leak there at the Arkley laboratory went public, to not let Umbrella cover it all up. Also here in the Arkley labs, Chris finds a slide
way to ruin it.
Is evidence of the BOWs Umbrella has created here. Cerberus, the
if we get 5 subs, I'll
and the Hunters, along with another one that Chris has not encountered. The T-002 Tyrant, the perfected version of the proto-tyrant that Rebecca and Billy encountered at the training school. Chris also sees a slide of someone in a lab.
I'm a little more organized with my stuff today too.
Another
so
list
that's
of so-called security protocols also lists Wesker as a consultant researcher for Umbrella. Chris also manages to observe the final moments of Bravo team member Kenneth by viewing the videotape he had obtained from him earlier on.
Bam, bam. Yeah, I think he's trying. He's trying something.
In the form of what are called chimeras.
What it is per se, I'm not sure.
By grafting insect DNA with human embryos, and these embryos were placed inside subjects such as homeless women. Getting a large elevator online, their way up to the surface, Chris is surprised by an out-of-breath Rebecca who's been trying to catch up with him. Using the elevator, they enter a lab and find Albert Wesker inside. His whole sordid plan is about to be revealed. Chris demands to know how long Wesker has been on the payroll of Umbrella. He says that he's always been with Umbrella, and that Stars have been a puppet.
Moms are
to be
hanging out.
used by
That's so
Umbrella.
nice.
Chris and Rebecca realize that Wesker gave up
That's
the Stars
so nice.
members and saw them as lambs for the slaughter, and Wesker shoots Rebecca in the shoulder. Wesker admires the Tyrant,
it's my
calling it
favorite
magnificent,
sub.
and it wakes up, goring Wesker through the torso with its claw arm and throwing him aside. It goes after Chris, but he's able to defeat it by shooting the exposed heart on its chest. Checking on Rebecca, she's wearing a bulletproof vest.
Sorry, I'm thinking. That's me thinking.
Getting a move on, Rebecca says that there's still a lot of T-virus present here in the lab.
I love
a
a Philly cheesesteak.
And destroy the virus using the facility's self-destruct system. Rebecca will look into getting this done, and Chris says he will see her on the outside. Chris is surprised to see that Jill is still alive, and she's in a cell there in the lab. Freeing her, she tells him that Wesker was the one that locked her in there, and he says that Wesker has been dealt with. Meeting up with Rebecca now, the self-destruct system has been activated. Jill tells Chris to get to the surface and get in contact with Brad,
and then have my neck be the mouth.
Using signal flares, Jill and Rebecca join him, but the Tyrant joins this reunion and knocks Jill out. Chris unloads everything he's got into the Tyrant, and Brad arrives,
unloads everything he's got into the. You know what that means, y'all, right?
Completely destroying it. Brad then lands, and they all board the chopper. The mansion then explodes. All traces of what Umbrella had done and their lab gone. Or so everyone thinks.
Sweet onion chicken is your favorite type of sub?
Let's go back a bit. So after the training school incident involving Rebecca and Billy, Albert Wesker left, and he was confronted by a Colonel Sergei Vladimir, who joined Umbrella after the fall of the Soviet Union, and he was extremely loyal to
What
Oswald
is that?
Spencer. He'd founded something called the Umbrella Biohazard Countermeasure Service, or UBCS for short, and he was a fierce rival of Wesker, with Colonel Vladimir is one of his T-103 bodyguards by the name of Ivan. The T-103 was very tough, but Wesker was able to get away after fighting it after it was distracted by an explosion.
I believe that my brother has died and yelled at me. It gave me a good giggle. She wrote me an apology I did not ask for. She also lost hers, but she just didn't know that how. Oh, that's fair.
And it appears that he died. Although after he had died, the T-virus strain in his body started to give him incredible healing and powerful abilities. However, one thing that Wesker wasn't anticipating was Colonel Vladimir using Umbrella's Red Queen AI to restrict his security access to Umbrella systems.
See, guys?
Wesker did not manage to recover embryos, or any other data for that matter, that he was planning to hand over to Umbrella's rival organization.
Every villain is lemons.
He ended up having to escape the mansion before it self-destructed, and after a fight with the still-alive Lisa Trevor, he was able to do so.
Up,
to everyone else,
and away!
Albert Wesker was dead. But on to Stars. Upon returning to
sweet
the
onion teriyaki chicken. Okay, that's different. But saying just sweet onion chicken
demanded a full investigation into the activities of Umbrella and also an investigation into the mansion incident. Brian Irons, the Raccoon City Chief of Police, rejected this demand, and this was because Irons was himself accepting bribes from Umbrella to keep any investigations away from their activities. Outward appearances suggested that Irons portrayed himself
Madeira,
as a
what's up?
which would help hide his more nefarious activities. Anyway, he then made the decision to disband the Special Tactics and Rescue Service.
You're never happy? I said I don't get super happy
Umbrella,
very often.
knowing that these investigations would not lead anywhere. Quite funny this, as donations from Umbrella to the RPD essentially funded the creation of Stars itself. Irons' rationale for disbanding Stars was that they'd lost too many officers, so it would no longer be able to function. Chris wasn't having this though, and he reported
every villain
Chief
is
Irons
limp
to
when
the
she's
FBI
biting
due
your
to
ankles.
corruption
Oh my God,
and taking
she's
bribes
aggressive.
from Umbrella. And the FBI began their own investigation into corruption inside the RPD. Chris would go to Europe to continue his investigations into Umbrella, writing to his friends and colleagues in code, stating that he was on holiday. Jill and Brad stayed behind in Raccoon City as they wanted to find out more information about Umbrella, or Birkin's G-virus that was inside a nest facility somewhere underneath Raccoon City.
G-string.
Rebecca Chambers and Barry Burton would leave the city. Jill's investigation didn't go far though, as Irons suspended her and put her under house arrest, with her apartment under surveillance. Jill thought this was so they could wear her down and torment her into complying with what they wanted. But over the next 2 months, things would get so much worse. Earlier in the video, I mentioned
totally didn't happen any other way.
You're
right.
And after 7 years of research on Golgotha,
you are right.
It, and he was incredibly proud of his work. His wife, Annette,
humor is the way to go. If it wasn't for humor, I don't think I'd be alive.
They sourced subjects from the Raccoon City orphanage, with stories being fabricated that the
we were talking about that yesterday too.
New families. They'd implant G embryos in the subject, but the subjects would constantly lose consciousness, and this happened with mass numbers of subjects.
If you've been around here, you'll know that like
the resultant mental degradation.
You'll probably find that very quickly.
They ended up burning through so many human subjects that Umbrella's incineration plant.
I could be very sarcastic, and also like my humor can be very like
attached to his work, it seems, and he started to get incredibly worried that Umbrella's
dry
would attempt to seize his creation
sometimes.
Themselves, since and Umbrella was ceasing all research.
Some of that is also like when we're talking about like somebody dying or whatever.
Right. As they'd removed him from his post.
Like my grandma.
The US military
always bring up like, oh yeah, she's dead.
G to them. He would sell the military the G virus for their own.
And sometimes it's so nonchalant that it like takes people a minute to be like,
Umbrella then made their move. But again, things are about to kick off. With the T virus having made its way to Raccoon City, the events of how that happened was kind of a perfect storm, with many different, smaller outbreaks resulting in one massive situation. In April 1998, people had suspected that something was up with the water in the rivers and high levels of toxins had been discovered in the water.
I thought that I was
in
the reason why.
Itself.
Not humor.
Residents were demanding an investigation into the situation. This, along with the leak from the
but I guess
laboratory,
really
meant that it was only a matter of time until the T-virus reached a heavily populated area, such as Raccoon City. Now, thanks to Birkin's research on the
like, paint me green and call me a frog because I'm about to
dispose of, they just sat there. And the virus was actually able to mutate.
And it made me
despite
laugh.
The staff having received a dose of antibodies to the
I was
T-virus,
like, where'd you hear that?
This new strain bypassed
he said it
them,
just
and it infected
came
the
to him.
staff at the plant, soon escaping into Raccoon City. Many more reports would come out, with newspapers reporting more instances of disheveled-looking people biting others, again being referred to as cannibal murders, since these murder victims appear to have been eaten. The sewers were also a place where the virus was rampant. Raccoon City Hospital soon
Blame
became
me for your grant, probably.
Patients suffering from strange symptoms, and they were becoming aggressive. And at the hospital in Raccoon City, the Spencer Memorial Hospital, was experiencing the same thing, with more and more infected piling in. No antiseptic would work, with the
or like we'll say, wow, way to let them
Some
die.
would barricade themselves in rooms to escape the chaos of the situation, trying hard to ignore the screaming coming from behind the door, eventually all dying themselves. Umbrella acted
Pastrami on an onion roll.
Fast spiraling out of control.
Pastrami is so good. Onion rolls too. Bread just in general is really good.
This was to avoid
too.
any action being taken by the US government themselves. Umbrella said they'd handle it.
Oh yeah, he gets
September 22nd,
he gets yelled at.
1998, the Umbrella Security Services have received orders from Dr. Christine Henry to
like
retrieve
we
the
always
G-virus
tell
by any
the other
means
one,
necessary,
depending
even if
on
that
like
means
what
killing Dr.
happens, we'll be
Birkin
like,
to
you
get
know
it.
what?
They were
I'm gonna
also
jump
ordered
off
to
the
eliminate
balcony.
any researchers there at the lab too.
Oh shit! I said that and I'm on TikTok.
Lee, one of Umbrella's researchers.
But anyway,
Special Agent Hunk had orders to deliver the G-virus to
it was
a
a
small village in
joke.
France called Loire. Their raid on
So the
Ness
other
didn't
day,
exactly
Coffee
go
was
to
saying, and
plan.
I'm like, do a
Hunk and his
flip.
team moved into Raccoon City on the 23rd, and after cleaning house, they confronted William Birkin in the Ness facility just as he was getting ready to leave. Birkin, reaching for something inside his lab coat in an already tense situation, resulted in one of their operators fatally shooting Birkin. Nonetheless, they grabbed the briefcases containing the samples of the G-virus, along with yet another strain of the T-virus.
What should you
and tried to make
surprise
their
your
way
wife
through the
with
sewers
this
to escape.
weekend?
Birkin, however, well, he had one remaining sample of the G-virus.
Get a
and dying, he
box,
injected
a
himself
gift
with it,
box.
much to the dismay of Annette.
And you cut a
Over very short
hole
period
in the bottom
time,
of it.
William would mutate into G and pursued them through the sewers. He killed most of Hunk's Alpha team
We're
and
all, like,
consumed the
on the
remaining
same
samples of the
page.
G-virus, ensuring that Umbrella could not get their hands on it. The T-virus vials smashed in the process, and the rats there in the sewers started to drink the liquid. The rats then left the sewers and ventured out near to a large lake, which was a main source of drinking water for Raccoon City. A day later, things would heat up. Groups of survivors get caught in zombie attacks.
I don't know what more you want from us.
Survivors did their best to survive by helping each other out and avoiding infected people who were trying to bite others. Arming themselves with whatever they could find, survivors make their way through the buildings and back alleys hoping to find a way out of the city. Raccoon police officers attempted to try and blow up the streets using explosives, but they would ultimately perish in their attempts, and this led to the survivors having to do it. Another survivor, George, goes to a university after finding a note from his friend Peter, in which he's asking for George's help. Getting there, George finds that Peter, who had been shot in the back of the head and killed, had been working on a retroviral drug called Daylight, which it was claimed could effectively eliminate the T-virus from the body, although it's more likely just a suppressant to slow the virus. Whilst trying to synthesize
You
it,
should
George
play
meets Greg
Bobbing
Mueller,
for
a
Apples.
former Umbrella researcher who had produced Daylight alongside
put
Peter, and he was the one who killed Peter. The survivors
a
were able
tub.
to get samples of Daylight out of the city, and Mueller was killed. Animals got infected too and roamed the streets, and a cover was established that the city was to be quarantined due to a radiation spill. Survivors would attempt to pass through the Raccoon City Zoo.
I think that's pretty original.
To make it to evacuation helicopters, but lucky
Bob
for them,
Fergie's
Chopper had already
nuts.
crashed before they were able to get to it, but the other passengers did die. Raccoon City police officer Kevin Ryman
Then
would take
bobbing
some
for blood
survivors to the Raccoon
oranges.
Police Department, as
There
the
you
place had
go.
been designated as a refuge for survivors, but things were looking precarious.
Yeah, there we go. I'll put a blood orange.
To escape via hidden tunnels. The police station
shirt
eventually
on
did
my
fall
merch
to the
store.
zombies. As mentioned, all these incidents created a perfect storm, and Raccoon City was doomed to fall to the T-virus. With the situation in Raccoon City spiraling
speaking of
out
massages,
control,
I was looking
Chief
at
Irons
places
was
around
angry at
here.
Umbrella for ruining his town.
You know what's
but he
kinda
still worked
crazy?
to
That,
disrupt
like-
Raccoon police operations as much as he could.
Unless it's just
purposely
not on their
dooming his
sites,
officers
but
to
like
death.
couples
A bit of
massages
background on
aren't
Chief
like
Irons. He was accused of domestic violence
very
against his
big around
wife
here.
twice,
There was a place
and he
that I
only
was
avoided
looking at
prison
that's in
after he agreed to
the
undergo a psych
city
evaluation.
that
Irons liked to hunt,
was like
and as a fully fledged psychopath,
$300 a person. I'm like, holy balls.
Young women in particular, and one he sought to hunt down and kill was the mayor's daughter, Catherine. The mayor, Michael Warren, had helped Irons discredit the STARS members who'd survived the mansion and training school
can't
incidents.
leave.
In a rather predictable show of cowardice, Warren fled Raccoon City once things got out of control, even so much as leaving Catherine in the Raccoon Police Department with Irons.
Why? Because we're giving you the best ideas?
With Jill Valentine on house arrest and awaiting the
That's
day
really
she's able
mean.
to move out of Raccoon City, she's woken up after suffering a horrific nightmare. A common occurrence ever since the mansion incident, as she's worried that maybe she's got some delayed symptoms of the T-virus. She's been busy whilst on lockdown though, investigating Umbrella and their ties to the RPD, their control of the entire city, along with the corruption of Chief Irons, and her own observations when it came to the T-virus. She realised that at some point, someone from Umbrella
Graham,
would
what's
likely
up?
come to
How
kill
you
her,
doing?
so to avoid that fate, she planned to move out at night in order to try and hold Umbrella to account for what they've done. She hears the phone ringing and it's Brad Vickers, who sounds extremely frantic, telling Jill that she needs to get out of her apartment right now. Agreeing to leave, something bursts through the wall of her apartment, launching her backwards. This thing is massive and obviously intends to do her harm. Firing on it, it launches her out of the door of her apartment and into the hall, where she's eventually able to escape this dangerous game of cat and mouse.
Flatty, what?
On the street, things are going to hell, and she meets up with Brad, who tells her that thing seems to be after the only 2 STARS members left in Raccoon
I forgot
City,
we were
which,
talking
of course,
about
is the 2 of
massages,
them.
and I was
Following
like,
down the
wait.
street, Jill sees that the situation in the city is really bad. People who have succumbed to the T-virus burst through a fence, and Jill and Brad take refuge in a bar, where Brad attempts to hold the infected off but is bitten. He demands Jill leave him, as he knows what this means for him, so she reluctantly leaves him there. Obtaining a weapon from a deceased police officer,
Get her another
Jill hears from
cat.
a
There you
chopper
go.
overhead to get to a nearby
There
parking
you
garage
go.
for pickup. On the way and heading through a warehouse, she finds a terrified man inside who introduces
And you
himself
say,
as Dario Rosso.
this is our cat.
He's refusing to leave and locks himself inside a storage container.
Ours.
With no other option than to leave him there.
And then
Jill
you
is
ask
confronted
her
and
to
attacked
move
by
in.
Zombies, but she's able to get to the parking garage's roof, but the chopper waiting there for her is attacked and destroyed by the monster that's hunting her. Getting into a nearby car, she accelerates towards the monster and
And you
drives
say,
into it,
I've
launching
never
both
been
of them
more
off the top level of
furious.
the car park and onto the street below. This leaves Jill in bad shape, and she is cornered by
Ever
the beast with it seemingly
than I
over
am
for
right
her.
now.
But she is saved by
Right
someone,
now.
a member of
Okay.
the UBCS called Carlos.
Are you writing this
who brings
down?
the beast down with a rocket launcher. Helping her up, they both move into the metro station, where Jill discovers that Carlos works for Umbrella, leading to her blaming them for causing all this mess. But this leaves Carlos confused, since as far as he's concerned, they were sent there for riot control. Carlos introduces her to the UBCS squad leader, Mikhail
You're taking
Victor,
notes? Okay.
who is on a subway
I just want to
train
make sure
with a
it
bunch
wasn't
of
just
survivors
like
on the neighboring one. He
talking
immediately
to
knows
thin
who
air.
she is, an elite member of STARS. He says
is
that
that
his
the
team was
phrase?
sent there to rescue civilians, but the city is completely cut off and isolated, with most of the civilians in the city wiped out by the T-virus, killed by the zombies, or just by the chaos in the city. His platoon has suffered catastrophic losses, but Jill is unsympathetic, as he and his platoon are working for Umbrella. He brushes this off and says that if they can get the subway train moving, they can evacuate the survivors. He asks Jill for her help, and she begrudgingly agrees to team up with UBCS, but only for the survivors and to help get the train moving. Grabbing some gear, Jill ventures out onto the streets, which are now populated entirely by the undead.
Oh, that'd be
Nice.
nice.
To put out
A
fire
tattoo
blocking
would
the
be
path
cute.
forward.
Does she like?
She makes it into
Does
a
she like
garage,
tattoos?
And hears a commotion behind a door. Using bolt cutters to gain access, she finds a member of the UBCS. They're called Murphy.
Oh yeah, the
who is
list.
badly wounded. Murphy says
No,
that
you
he's
can't
not
break out the
infected,
list,
but
Bea.
another UBCS member shows up and shoots Murphy in the head. Jill is shocked and asks why the man did it, and he responds that he could have been infected and that he didn't want to take the chance. An air of arrogance about him, the UBCS agent asks Jill where her sense of self-preservation is and tells her to go back to the subway station, calling her a bleeding heart. Looking at Murphy's journal, it appears that Umbrella were recruiting former soldiers, just like Murphy himself, who was in prison because he'd murdered 20 gangsters as a revenge for them having gunned down his brother. He was recruited into the UBCS. During his training, he had suspicion about someone called Nikolai, assumed to be the man who shot him.
She
referring
said
to him as
yes.
a lunatic,
Yes.
and it seems the two
But
trained
has
together
she
upon
said
joining
yes?
the UBCS. Outside this building,
You're
Jill finds another
almost-
dead UBCS member, and he's left a note stating that the squadron
She only
he was
said
with,
yes?
30
Well, we're
heavily armed
gonna-
men, got wiped out in less than 48
We're gonna
hours.
have to
Moving on the
have
power
her
plant,
hang
Jill
out
sees it's
here.
engulfed by some
Okay.
sort of nest. Outside, she finds a lockpick next to
We
the
need
floating
to
corpse of
influence
someone,
her.
and a load of insects burst out from his body.
And I need
She also
to make
finds a
her
note
one of
from a
my
worker there at the
girlfriends.
plant stating that an insect forced something down his throat, and recalling something that his grandmother told him, he used a green herb which are native to the Arkley Mountains, and this forced a parasite that was inside of him out. A good job she read this, as when Jill attempts to enter the power plant, the same thing happens to her, and upon consuming a herb, her body ejects the parasite. With no other option than to enter the infested plant to get the power back on, Jill manages it, turning the power back on at the terminal, and this
Slasher crash course on speech.
that had
Yes.
come about after insects had drunk
Speech,
T-virus infected
like
blood.
peach.
They were
Yeah.
initially the size of fleas, but they grew to quite a large size as a result. Anyway, Jill now needs to redirect the train lines at the train company's office nearby, but on the way to it, she is once again
She's gorgeous. I don't think I can share. I want to see a picture.
Temporarily incapacitating it or just running for her life, Jill warns Carlos over the radio that the BOW is still alive, and that despite the threat, she will head to switch the tracks.
Your face looks like a brain.
She is constantly hunted by the creature, but she's able to make it to the depot and switches the tracks so that a subway train with the survivors can get out of there. Leaving, she sees a strange mutation, as a zombie's head has a casing around it and uses a long tendril to whip at Jill. Putting this mutation down, she sees what's causing this. It's the large BOW. It's implanting some sort of parasite into the T-virus riddled zombies, causing them to mutate.
Parasite, you guys.
Subway station, she meets it with Carlos, and the UBCS agent she'd met before, Nikolai, shows up, and he clearly doesn't like the fact that Jill is still there, despite her helping them get the subway train moving. Attention turns to the BOW, which is now bashing its way into the subway station.
And she steals her, like, myth murder.
Some time by leading the creature away, since it's her it's after. This little
I don't know what we're
to
listening to anymore, to be honest.
The city. Trying to find a way out, it appears that an Umbrella researcher had been doing.
I was like, hey guys, what do you want to listen to? And nobody answered. And so I was like, well, we're gonna listen to lore.
Specimens from the lab.
That's how we got here.
Research. Carlisle had been nurturing these creatures and had developed a fatherly love for them. He'd seen them in action and wanted to report progress back to Umbrella's European branch. Taking out what's left of Carlisle's hunter-gatherers, Jill finds her way out via a ladder. At the top, though, she's grabbed by the BOW, which is now armed with a flamethrower, and Jill is once again pursued, this time into a tall building. Climbing to the top as the BOW is torching it, she faces off against the creature, eventually managing to bring it down. Needing to escape the building before it's completely engulfed in flames, Jill jumps off the side of it, and luckily she's able to soften her landing.
Go, Jill, go!
Still a fairly painful one. Getting in contact with
happened
Carlos
to in
again,
between your ears?
What,
right here?
Now, and she's heading back to the station. She visits a gun shop nearby, which is run by her friend Kendo, who also designed and made Jill's and the rest of Star's Samurai Edge handguns. Jill tells him about the subway train with survivors, but he rejects the offer of a ride out of town, saying that he's making his own arrangements. He seems to be very concerned about something in his garage out back, and Jill leaves, telling him to make sure he makes it, as he's the best gunsmith around. She cuts through some houses, encountering more of the mutated zombies, and is chased by the still alive BOW, which is now equipped with a missile launcher. Seeing Carlos, she follows him to an alternate entrance to the subway station, and Carlos takes the beast down by firing on an oil tanker and creating a huge explosion. Jill boards the train whilst Mikhail tells Tyrell, who is one of the UBCS's monitors, operatives that gather data, and Carlos that they need to track someone down, a Dr. Nathaniel Bard. The train leaves Redstone Street Station.
Oh my gosh, Robbie.
Park. Jill hears Mikhail and Nikolai talking. She looks at him, fully evident that she doesn't trust Nikolai one bit. Mikhail looks up at him and questions him as to how a bunch of zombies managed to get a jump
you
on
need
an
to see what Robbie
especially
said.
Since the gate was locked, implying that he thinks it was Nikolai who betrayed his unit. There's then an explosion on the train. Nikolai slowly makes his retreat, whilst Mikhail and Jill try to see what it was. It's the BOW again, still not dead. Jill wants to take it down, but Mikhail stops her, telling her they need to move. But Nikolai locks them both.
Is that
in
how you're
train
feeling,
car with
Miss
the creature,
Murder?
saying that he knows it's not after him. Mikhail tries to shoot the beast, but is grabbed by it. With a block of C4 under his arm, he detonates it, killing himself and hopefully the BOW too. The train veers off the track and crashes, with Jill passing out. Meanwhile, Carlos and Tyrell have made it to the Raccoon Police Department as they hope Bard will be there. Approaching the front entrance, they hear a commotion. It's Brad Vickers, who is still in the process of turning, but still has some coherence, much to the surprise of the officer there, who is Marvin Branner, who tells Brad to stop. Marvin is then attacked and bitten by Brad, afterwards running inside the station. Tyrell tries to get the main door open, whilst Carlos engages Brad and takes him down, finding out from his security card that he is Stars. Inside the station, Tyrell says that Bard should be in the Stars office on the first floor. Tyrell says that Bard has access to Umbrella's darkest secrets, so this rescue mission is more of a capture and detain one due to what Bard knows. It's clear when moving through the station.
I can't remember if there's a liquor emo or if it's
witnesses two officers getting torn apart by something there. As mentioned earlier, the station was a refuge for survivors until the inevitable happened and an outbreak occurred. And from an email that Carlos can find, someone named
It means love? Oh, that's so nice.
In relation to you, Umbrella. Lucy Yen had requested evacuation, but none came, so she threatened to expose Umbrella's collusion with Raccoon City's civic leaders such as Mayor Warren and Chief Irons. Anyway, Carlos is able to find his way to the Stars office and is attacked by another mutation called a Licker. Blind, but very aggressive. Upon entering the office, he makes contact with Nathaniel Bard, who is relieved to have gotten in touch with someone. He says that he's trapped in a hospital surrounded by abominations. He tells Carlos to send stars, but he replies that it's not possible as the police department is now overrun. Bard gets a little bit shirty.
But you can't just make one and act like it's her, okay? You can't. Well, no.
He fears that he is next. He claims that he's the one that knows how to make a vaccine in order to stop the zombies.
I have to pee, though.
He hangs up, and Carlos tells Tyrell they can't just hand
Not love as in, I love you, love as in, you are my love.
Responds by saying that's Mikhail's call.
That's so nice.
Whilst all this has been happening, Jill had regained consciousness, and she found herself at St. Michael's clock tower. Hearing a roar coming from underground, she saw that BOW hunting her emerged from it and had jumped into the river whilst on fire. She then got radio signal back again, so she contacts Carlos to tell him what happened, that Nikolai betrayed them and that Mikhail is dead. However, she starts to break up. At that point, though, Jill stops responding to him as the creature, now mutated, leaps out of the water and she has to run in order to escape. Tyrell tells Carlos to go and help Jill and says that he'll handle Bard. Jill faces off against the creature again. Using some newly acquired mine rounds, she uses these to gain the upper hand and dumps some firepower into its exposed parasite. Eventually, she's able to defeat the beast, again. But quite predictably, as she's not done the whole double tap thing, the creature grabs her while she's walking away. She shoots the gate and it comes down on the creature's arm, but it shoots a barb into her arm and she collapses, struggling to breathe as the infection takes hold. Nikolai appears, grinning, saying that Jill has done him a big favor. Jill passes out, being found half a day later in the early evening by Carlos, who embarks on quite the journey in getting Jill to the Spencer Memorial Hospital.
Okay. I feel better. Okay, YouTube, if you guys would like to follow along and see more of stream and how this is gonna turn out, come over to kick.com/Slashley. Thank you guys so much for hanging out today. That is kick.com/Slashley. Thank you guys for hanging out.
He received a message from the RPD telling him things in the city had become very bad,